In 1991, a group of civilian divers made a discovery that defied logic: a submarine resting where no sub should be. What they uncovered over the next several years would not only rewrite history but also raise chilling new questions. When salvage divers finally breached the hull of this sunken Nazi submarine, what they found inside left the world speechless. This is the true story of U-869, a mystery that begins deep beneath the ocean's surface. The ghost sub of World War II. In the cold, dark, and churning waters of the Atlantic, death lurked unseen, ready to strike without warning. German U-boats prowled like deadly sharks beneath the waves, silently sinking thousands of Allied ships with deadly precision. These submarines were Hitler's most feared weapons at sea, cutting vital supply lines, leaving behind trails of wreckage and oil slicks. Of the hundreds of U-boats launched by Nazi Germany during the war, most were destroyed. Some were captured, but a few simply vanished without a trace. Among the most mysterious was U-869. Launched in 1943, this Type 9 C-40 U-boat was one of the Kriegsmarine's largest and most advanced long-range submarines. Nearly 250 feet long and armed with 6 torpedo tubes, it was designed to strike deep into Allied waters across the Atlantic. Its mission was simple: disrupt, destroy, disappear. Commanded by Captain Helmut Neuerberg, a seasoned naval officer, U-869 set off on its first combat patrol in late 1944, as Germany's war fortunes rapidly declined. Officially, U-869 was sent to patrol near Gibraltar, a critical choke point where Allied ships funneled through the Mediterranean. But by then, chaos ruled the German command, communication broke down, orders conflicted, and the chain of command crumbled. Experts now believe U-869's mission may have shifted mid-course. On February 11, 1945, a US destroyer and Coast Guard cutter reported sinking an unidentified German U-boat near Gibraltar. The Allies celebrated a confirmed kill. They assumed that sub was U-869. The defeated and disorganized Kriegsmarine offered no alternative account. Answer: history was written. U-869 was sunk off Gibraltar, with all 56 crew lost, no survivors, no distress signals. No trace. For decades, no one questioned this story. It was just one more line in the grim ledger of World War II, another enemy submarine that never returned home. But cracks began to appear in the official version. For starters, there were no confirmed photos or sonar images of a wreck near Gibraltar matching U-869's size or signature. Wartime reports were unreliable, often based on fleeting visual sightings amid chaos, or rough estimates made under immense pressure. The Atlantic is vast, technology was primitive, and errors were common. More puzzling, no German records clearly indicated U-869's final resting place. By 1945, Germany's war machine was collapsing. Radio silence was common, many records were destroyed or incomplete. The few logs that survived were vague. Some experts now argue U-869 may have never even reached Gibraltar at all. And then there's the most unsettling detail of all, the radio silence. German U-boats were required to check in regularly during missions, to confirm position and receive orders. But U-869 was last heard from thousands of miles away, deep in the North Atlantic, far from its supposed sinking near Gibraltar. After that, nothing. Silence. As if the ocean itself had swallowed the submarine whole, leaving no trace, no clue, no farewell. The deeper historians and researchers dug, the more the mystery deepened. Was the submarine misidentified in that Gibraltar battle? Had it been rerouted without anyone's knowledge? Or was something far stranger unfolding beneath the waves? For more than 40 years, U-869 remained a ghost ship, lost in time, buried beneath conflicting reports and fading memories. Families of the crew had no grave to visit, no wreckage to mourn, just a name etched on a memorial and a wartime file that never quite added up. Even the experts were divided. Military historians clung to the Gibraltar attack, insisting the case was closed. But divers, wreck hunters, and amateur sleuths weren't convinced. And then, decades later, something strange appeared on sonar off the coast of New Jersey. The Jersey Mystery. The North Atlantic near New Jersey is a graveyard of steel and stories. Beneath the waves lie hundreds of wrecks, victims of storms, collisions, and wars long past. For local divers, it's both a playground and a puzzle. But in the summer of 1991, a team of wreck divers found something unlike anything they'd ever seen before. John Chatterton, Richie Kohler, and their team of experienced Northeast divers were scanning the ocean floor with side-scan sonar, searching for unidentified wrecks. The waters off New Jersey were notorious: strong currents, poor visibility, deep, dangerous dives. These were no casual recreational dips. This was technical diving, high-risk exploration demanding precise planning, nerves of steel, and flawless execution. About 60 miles off Point Pleasant, New Jersey, at a depth of 230 feet, their sonar revealed a long, narrow object, torpedo-shaped, resting on the ocean floor. Something man-made, something old, but what? Curiosity quickly spiraled into obsession. When the divers made their first descent, visibility was terrible, barely a few feet. The cold cut through their suits. The structure lay half buried in sand and tangled in decades of fishing nets. A few passers confirmed the chilling truth. This was a submarine, a big one, and it wasn't supposed to be here. At first, no hull numbers or markings were visible. No nameplate, no plaque, no flags, nothing to identify it. The wreck was badly damaged, its conning tower partially collapsed, the outer hull cracked and rusting slowly into oblivion. Was it American, Russian, German? No one knew. That's when the divers gave it a nickname, U-Hoo. U-Hoo was a riddle that defied logic. No World War II-era sub was recorded lost near this spot. And yet here it rested, silent and forgotten beneath the waves for nearly 50 years. The dive team returned repeatedly, each expedition more dangerous than the last. These dives weren't simple swims. They required tri-mix gas blends, careful decompression stops, and painstaking planning. The risks were immense. Divers faced nitrogen narcosis, oxygen toxicity, and worst of all, the bends. But each dive brought new clues. Inside the wreck, they found German gauges marked in metric units, pipes, valves, and instrumentation. It was clearly a German U-boat. But which one? They recovered small artifacts, plates, bowls, pieces of equipment stamped with the Kriegsmarine eagle, yet nothing definitive. Then came the breakthrough: a butter knife, tarnished but intact, engraved with the name Hornberg. Not a model number, a man's name. This changed everything. Using naval records and crew lists, the divers traced the name to Georg Hornberg, a crewman aboard U-869. They kept digging, underwater and in dusty archives. On a later dive, they recovered valve manifolds and diesel engine parts with serial numbers. These matched shipyard records from Deschomag Weser, the German company that built U-869. They had done it. Against all odds, civilian divers had identified the mystery wreck. In 1997, 6 years after the first dive, the US Navy officially confirmed the submarine off New Jersey was U-869. The implications were staggering. U-869 had not been sunk near Gibraltar, as the military had long claimed. It had met its fate off the American East Coast, nearly 3,000 miles from where history placed it. The divers had uncovered what no wartime record ever could. They found the wreck. They found the truth. And then came the eerie realization: no one had been searching for U-869 here. If not for a handful of obsessed divers, it would still be rusting in silence, its story untold, its secrets locked beneath the waves. The US Navy and historians took notice. Wreck divers worldwide hailed the discovery as one of the greatest underwater identifications ever made, and it was done without institutional support. No military, no government backing, just a small crew of recreational divers, sheer determination, and hundreds of dangerous hours on the ocean floor. But the mystery wasn't fully solved. The biggest question still hung in the air: how did U-869 end up here? Its mission orders pointed to Gibraltar. Wartime records placed it in European waters. So how did it wind up on the wrong side of the Atlantic? Was it rerouted? Did it receive secret new orders? Or was there a catastrophic communication failure that sent it rogue? No records survived to tell the tale. Kriegsmarine logs were incomplete, and every man aboard U-869 had died with the submarine. A grave had been found. History seemed corrected, but the real mystery of U-869 was only just beginning. Death by friendly fire, or something far worse. When salvage divers confirmed the New Jersey wreck was indeed German U-boat U-869, a new question emerged: why did it sink? The question seemed simple, but as divers explored the wreck and researchers combed through the history, the answers became murkier. Competing theories surfaced, each backed by evidence, but each leaving gaps that made the truth feel just out of reach. Two explanations dominate the debate to this day. 1. U-869 was destroyed by its own weapon. 2. It was destroyed in combat by US warships. Let's start with the first. German torpedoes in World War II were powerful but flawed. One terrifying malfunction was the infamous circle runner. A torpedo designed to run straight would, due to a faulty gyroscope or control surface, curve in a wide arc, sometimes looping back to strike the very submarine that launched it. The result? A self-inflicted kill. This wasn't just theory. It happened multiple times during the war, and every U-boat captain knew the risk. Supporters of the circle runner theory argue this doomed U-869. After firing a torpedo, likely during combat or a test, the weapon veered off course and circled back. Before the crew could react, it slammed into the side of their own sub. There's circumstantial evidence supporting this theory. First, no signs exist that U-869 ever engaged an enemy ship. No torpedo strikes reported, no surviving records of attacks. Second, the wreck shows significant internal blast damage consistent with a torpedo detonating against or very close to the hull, rather than an external strike. So, U-869 might have sunk itself. But the theory isn't airtight. The other theory, U-869 was hunted down and destroyed by two US Navy ships, the USS Howard D. Crowe and USS Coiner. According to this account, on February 11, 1945, the vessels detected a submarine, possibly through sonar or hydrophones, and launched a coordinated depth charge attack. After the war, this engagement was credited as the sinking of an unidentified U-boat, later believed to be U-869. For decades, the US Navy's official records listed this as the sub's final fate. Even after the wreck was found off New Jersey, the Navy maintained that their depth charges had caused the sinking. At first glance, this explanation seems clear, but it raises tough questions. First, the timing. U-869 wasn't expected near the East Coast. Why hadn't anyone connected the Navy attack to U-869 sooner if the sub was indeed there? Second, the wreck's location doesn't perfectly match the coordinates reported by the USS Howard D. Crowe and USS Coiner. It's close enough to raise eyebrows, but far enough to cast doubt. Third, sonar scans and damage assessments reveal puzzles. Divers found several torpedo tubes still sealed. If U-869 had engaged in combat, why hadn't it fired its weapons? Why was it apparently caught off guard? The clues painted a conflicting picture. The sub's forward section showed heavy damage, crushed inward, twisted by immense force. Some of the internal compartments were imploded, as if a shockwave had erupted from inside rather than from a depth charge exploding nearby. At the same time, certain external parts of the hull showed deformation patterns consistent with pressure waves from a depth charge, but these marks were far less severe than expected if the vessel had taken a direct hit from above. One observation stood out, raising more questions than answers. The control room and torpedo room remained surprisingly intact. While damage was severe, it was compartmentalized and localized. This suggests a devastating internal explosion, possibly a torpedo detonating while still in the tube or immediately after launch. Adding to the mystery were the crew's positions inside the wreck. Skeletal remains, scattered over decades, indicated that no one made it to the escape hatches. There were no signs of an emergency ascent, no desperate attempt to surface. It happened fast, violently, without warning. Whatever struck U-869, from inside or out, left the crew no time to respond. But military records from the era tell a confusing story. U-869 was long believed to be nowhere near the US coast, and the submarine sunk by American destroyers was never definitively identified. This left room for misidentification on both sides. Perhaps the USS Howard D. Crowe and USS Coiner sank a U-boat, but not U-869. Maybe U-869 had already been lost days earlier to a faulty torpedo. Or maybe, just maybe, both theories are wrong. There's also the chilling possibility that U-869 was on a secret mission, with rerouted orders never officially logged. That could explain its unexpected location and radio silence. It might also explain the secrecy surrounding its discovery, even years after the wreck was found. As evidence piled up, the truth grew murkier. Both theories fit, and both had cracks. U-869's final moments remained a cold case. One detail haunted divers deeply. the torpedo tubes were still sealed. If the sub had engaged in combat, why hadn't it fired? If it was sunk by a circle runner, where's the launch record? And if ambushed, how was it caught with weapons unused? The possibility that U-869 was destroyed before ever firing a single shot makes the story even more tragic. It traveled thousands of miles in stealth, only to die in silence, unable to fight back. It also adds weight to a final, unsettling question: what was it doing off the US coast in the first place? This question, long unanswered, would finally get a clue in the most unexpected way. Because just when the mystery seemed impenetrable, a sealed compartment was opened. The hidden chambers. For years, divers explored U-869's wreck under brutal conditions: depth, currents, poor visibility, each dive a gamble. But in late 2024, with advanced gear and precise dive planning, a long inaccessible section was finally reached. Trust us, what Salvage divers found inside the sunken Nazi submarine will leave you speechless. It was a sealed compartment, collapsed in places, corroded shut by decades of pressure and salt water. According to anonymous team members, this area had likely remained untouched since U-869 sank in 1945. Inside, they uncovered what one diver called a perfectly preserved time capsule. The compartment held personal lockers, locked storage crates, and foot lockers, many still sealed with rubber gaskets barely holding tight. Among the recovered items were the everyday remnants of life aboard a Nazi submarine: ration tins, logbooks, and worn clothing. But then came the unexpected. Objects that immediately caught the eye of historians and intelligence officials alike. Sources familiar with the investigation revealed the discovery of a ceremonial dagger belonging to a Kriegsmarine officer. Its blade was etched with a motto used exclusively by elite naval units. Next to it, folded neatly in a watertight crate, was a Kriegsmarine dress uniform, still bearing the Iron Eagle insignia and a red armband marked with a swastika, preserved far better than anyone imagined possible. Yet what came next stunned even the most seasoned researchers. Beneath layers of sealed documents wrapped carefully in oilcloth lay a box of Nazi memorabilia, including a pristine swastika flag folded with military precision. Alongside it were propaganda leaflets printed in English, aimed at sowing discord among the American public, and a partially encrypted codebook marked with the seal of the Abwehr, Nazi Germany's military intelligence service. The find was so politically sensitive, so unexpected, that it was never made public. Why the secrecy? Because it suggested something chilling. U-869 wasn't just patrolling the Atlantic. It may have been tasked with deploying operatives or materials on US soil. Though unconfirmed, the implications could rewrite everything we thought we knew about German covert operations in the Western Hemisphere. But there's one more story, one that speaks to survivors' guilt. Of the 56 men assigned to U-869, all were believed to have died when the submarine sank in early 1945. Except one name was missing from the casualty list. A man scheduled to be aboard, but wasn't. His name was Herbert Gushowski. Originally assigned to U-869's crew during preparations, Herbert fell ill just before departure and was removed from the mission. Another sailor took his place. U-869 left port without him. At the time, it seemed a minor personnel change. But that single shift defined the rest of his life. For decades, Herbert shared the same belief as military historians and the families of the lost crew, that U-869 was lost near Gibraltar, most likely destroyed by Allied depth charges. That was the accepted record. Then, in the 1990s, a group of American wreck divers searching off Point Pleasant, New Jersey, discovered a sunken submarine, not near Spain, but off the eastern US coast. As part of their investigation, the divers reached out to surviving relatives. Their search led them to Herbert, living quietly in Germany, decades removed from the war but still haunted by memories of those he trained alongside. According to diver and researcher Richie Kohler, Herbert was initially skeptical when told the submarine was found thousands of miles from where he believed it had sunk. The news directly contradicted over 50 years of accepted history. But the divers' evidence was undeniable. They presented photos of recovered items, personal belongings, technical components, even a knife engraved with the name of Georg Horenberg, a crew member Herbert personally knew. Richie and fellow diver John Chatterton, who later co-authored Shadow Divers with Robert Kurson, recalled Herbert's stories. He confirmed that Horenberg had indeed served aboard U-869. He remembered the crew training, the tense atmosphere during the final weeks before departure. His illness had kept him from sailing. It wasn't drama or a last-minute decision, just medical fitness. He was replaced, and the submarine went to sea without him. When asked about the discovery, Herbert was moved but restrained. He acknowledged the strange fortune that spared his life and mourned the loss of his comrades. He avoided publicity, declined lengthy interviews, but maintained correspondence with the divers and authors telling U-869's story. His memories helped verify crew identities and confirmed historical records, shedding light on the submarine's final crew makeup. Herbert passed away in 2005, and he never learned about the sealed chamber. Or maybe he did, and simply chose to keep silent. What do you think? Let us know in the comments.